This is called Death Before Decaf, but we've never made promises about where the caffeine comes from. I know, even my cat is judging me. Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel, Death Before Decaf, where we talk about academia, productivity, and being really busy and managing a bunch of different things. Thank you so much for joining me again today. As a disclaimer, today's video is not scripted, it's a rant. And I have bullet points, but it's not scripted, prompted, or anything of the sort. So this might get messy and it might get ranty, but that's sort of the point. So the school year is started, it is going, we are going through the motions. And I recently started being a TA for a class at the university I go to, and it's in this big lecture hall once a week, and then the other part of the week it's in a small conference room, and that's when I get to do some teaching. And when you sit in a big lecture hall in the back, you get to see everybody's little laptops, like a million screens, like literally 200 little screens. And the amount of those screens, the percentage of those screens that have ChatGPT open for reasons ranging from, you know, getting therapy from ChatGPT because your boyfriend broke up with you, yes, I did see that, all the way to asking ChatGPT to explain to you the thing that the professor is currently explaining to you at the front of the classroom. It has just been like watching reality TV live on like all of these little screens. And that really has got me thinking about how much AI is omnipresent and completely pervasive and has totally taken over people's lives. Not all people, but definitely some people, and how dependent people have become on ChatGPT and AI. And so yesterday was my first conference section with my students, and the first thing that I mentioned to them was that I could see their ChatGPT screens in the lecture hall, and that I didn't want none of that in my class, and that it is not good. And so today I wanted to sort of delve into like why it's not, and why it is what it is, and how we can better understand why it became to be this way, and why we shouldn't hope for it to stay that way, and maybe tentatively, because this is a rant, not prepared, think about some other options and ways to tackle the threat of ChatGPT in the academia. So let's get into it. I want to start with saying that this is in no way a piece of judgment upon my fellow academics. And the reason why I say this is because, like, as you may or may not know, I am doing my master's full-time, but I'm also working in marketing full-time. And as part of my marketing job, I use AI all the time. All my colleagues use it, we're trained to use it, we use it, it's like part of every meeting, it's AI, 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 AI. And I'm not gonna lie to you, as someone who has a lot of tasks and who's very busy, being able to fast track my menial, you know, job tasks that I don't really wanna do anyway, helps me make things happen faster, and so I can focus on the thing that I care more about, which is my studies. And, you know, I know how to use ChatGPT. I use it a lot. I know how to prompt it to give me what I want it to give me, and I use it a lot for my job. And so I'm here to say, to disclaim that I'm not judging you for using ChatGPT. If you do, I'm trying as much as possible to use it as little as possible at my job, but at the end of the day, I need money to go to school, and I need to, not I need to, but I am a part of the capitalist system. I need to make income, and if I can make my tasks go faster with a tool, I'm gonna use that tool. But when it comes to academia, things are very, very different. And, you know, cheating or being sort of dishonest with your work using tools is nothing new, right? People have been paying others to write their essays for them. People have been, using a million different ways to not submit completely original work forever. It's just that now it's gotten, so accessible and easy to use and simple. You just, answer this question, you get an answer, you can put it, in your own stuff. But also it's become indiscernible for most professors. So you can for sure get away with using AI. Maybe not the whole thing, because at some point we've begun to understand the ways in which ChatGPT and his friends communicate. But for the most part, you can definitely get away with using AI to do your assignments for you, at least to some extent. And there used to be a time where if you put in a quote that you just copy pasted from the web, your professors would put in your essay through Turnitin or a similar platform, and they'll be like, yeah, so this was copied and you didn't cite it, so this is plagiarism. But there's no actual reliable analysis tool to tell you if someone used AI or not to write something. And that's where it becomes really, really dangerous. And that's where in the academic community right now, at the professorship/teacher assistantship, people are very, one, confused, two, a little scared, not a little, very, but also trying to find creative ways to counteract ChatGPT. But a huge part of it is also being like, okay, I'm not their mom. I'm not their guardian. I can't make decisions for them. So it's up to them at this point to decide if using ChatGPT feels right for them. And if they're comfortable with cheating and not engaging in the academic activity to their full extent, because university is very expensive. So why you wouldn't want to do the exercise fully? I mean, it's up to you, ultimately. So then teachers are becoming more and more creative about how to evaluate, since just asking students to submit a final essay is not super productive anymore, and the risk of having AI do most of the work just makes it so that it's not a relevant academic exercise. So, for example, in the class that I'm teaching for, we're doing no online submitted assignment. Everything is short form written by hand in the conferences, or it's an oral presentation, or it's discussion leading. But yeah, so in these ways we can counteract ChatGPT, but it doesn't stop the reason why it's happening, and that's what I want to address next. So I'm thinking about I try to empathize with people who use ChatGPT to do their academic stuff for them, right? Because there has to be a reason. If you're in university and you're spending insane amounts of money on being there, and the goal is to become an educated person and thus a more intelligent person who's more capable of critical thinking and of expressing themselves and of communication, those are the same thing, but all of these skills that you're supposed to learn at university and that you're paying so much money and spending so much time doing so that you hone those skills, you don't do that when you use ChatGPT. I have a fabulous colleague recently who told me this analogy that ChatGPT, using ChatGPT to do your work is like lending your gym membership to your friend and expecting you to have more muscle and be fitter and be in better shape. That's not how that works. You can't have your friend do the work and you get the results. And that's the same thing for academia. If you don't use your brain to do the hard work of research, of writing a coherent sentence, of editing a text, even of doing citations, then you are losing an opportunity to hone your brain in the way that, being in university should make you do. And so we return to, why do people do it? Why do people use ChatGPT? And ultimately, I'm suspicious that the reason is that the demand on students now is so gigantic, in the sense that there's less and less money for school. People are more worried about buying property in the future. People are more worried about finding a good job. Like the system and the situation around outside after school is so dire that people are desperately trying to find ways to fast track it, do it at the same time as they work, take on more and more to have more chances of being more successful when they're out of school. Like I can only think of, like, let's call her Katie, and Katie is going back to school, and she's like 25 years old, and she wants to buy property soon because she'd like to have kids soon, and she doesn't want to be in debt, so she goes to school. She also has a part-time job or a full-time job on the side. She wants to save money to buy her property, but she also wants to, you know, have certifications on the side and side projects and a good academic CV. And so what does she do? She fills up her plate with all of the things that she thinks are going to make her as successful as possible when she comes out of university. But then that's too much on her plate. So what does she need to do? She needs to fast track some of the things. She needs to get the assignment out. She doesn't have time. ChatGPT's right there. It only makes sense. And that's why, like, I have a lot of empathy, because I often have to, like, look myself in the mirror and be like, no, you're going to sit down, you're going to do the work, and you're not going to ask ChatGPT to do it for you or to help you come up with an idea. And that leads me to my final point. The human brain is a muscle, and it needs to be exercised for all the good reasons. For your physical health, for your mental health, to be more intellectually sound, to be able to navigate this absolute mess of a society that we're in, because we're constantly being bombarded with information, disinformation too. So you need to have honed the skills and to have exercise the brain, that you are able to discern relevant from irrelevant information, information from disinformation, rage bait, you know, all of those things. So if we don't use our brains to do the menial, boring, tedious, repetitive, hard stuff, we're gonna, one, lose our capacity to do it, and two, we're not gonna be able to keep up with the increasingly chaotic and toxic information environment that we're heading towards and that we're already in. And so ultimately, I don't know what the solution is. I don't know what it is. I think that the current generation that's just starting university has adopted ChatGPT as its, like, best friend, its therapist, the person that does their assignments for them. But perhaps this needs to be like okay, we messed up on that one. Maybe the next kids who are entering primary school right now need to learn how to do work without the assistance of technology, so close and easy and simple. And perhaps we need to keep kids bored and to keep emphasizing the importance of, sometimes you're gonna have to do, like, hard tasks that are menial, that you could have a robot do for you. But we don't want to end up like the humans in WALL-E. Right? I don't. So that was my rant. That was stupidly long and ranty. But it had to come out. So if you use ChatGPT and you use it because you're overwhelmed and it helps you get through your tasks, I feel for you profoundly. But for all of our collective sake and for your individual personal sake, I think we need to avoid it as much as we humanly can. Rant over. if you didn't click out of this video after a second, thank you for staying and for sticking by and for letting me rant to you about AI. But I want to end on a good note. So I hope you have a wonderful day. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week and a good weekend whenever it is when you're watching this. I love you. Thank you for watching. Please leave a comment. Let me know your thoughts. Do you agree, disagree? Leave a like, share, subscribe to the channel. We have a lot of fun here. I don't know if I'm going to be posting a video next Friday because it's the release of Life of a Showgirl, and so I'm going to be busy. I'm gonna be busy showgirling with my friends. Anyways, that was the most chaotic video ever. Bye. Bye before I get more chaotic.